Yeah, while I was listening to this. Well, and really, you sort of use your imagination to watch it. You watch it in your mind. I'm just trying to justify the thing I said.
You could stare at the cover and
Exactly.
I'm Tom Dickinson,
And I'm Louis Midas,
and this is the Cloister Room.
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
How did you enjoy Wrath of the Iceni?
I liked it, but I'm not sure why I liked it.
Really?
Yeah, well...
That's interesting.
I know. I guess part of the reason I really liked it was I just liked seeing, or not, I always say seeing when I mean hearing, experiencing, sensing the Fourth Doctor back in action again.
Yeah. This is one of the early ones from the first season he did with Big Finish. So he's still kind of new to Big Finish. They've only had him since I guess this one came out last year. So it's still a very novel thing for me as well, even though I've heard a lot of Big Finish and I've heard most of what he's done.
Huh. Yeah, and I just I really liked a lot of the Fourth Doctor's lines, just some of the stuff he was talking about, like introducing himself as, I guess they were being introduced as, first name of...
Yeah, Leela of the 17.
Right. And then it was Doctor of No Fixed Abode.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. That's funny.
Yeah. They give him a lot of very good lines that sort of really fit with the Fourth Doctor as this kind of humorous figure, which I like.
Yeah, and I liked him sort of playing the fool for a little bit. I don't remember exactly how it came up, but it was suggested that he was some court jester or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I like that. But I thought that was good. And I mean, I keep bringing this up because I haven't seen Leela yet in the actual show, but I liked Leela. I thought she was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume that you picked up on this from Light at the End, but she's a quote unquote savage.
Right.
She comes from another planet. She's descended from Earth people, but not of Earth. So that's kind of why the Doctor mentions that he's taking her to see her ancestors in this case.
Well, yeah, and he seems to constantly refer to her as savage.
Yeah, that's kind of... That's not really nice, I don't think.
I can't imagine it would be, unless it's kind of like a term that, savages have taken back, kind of like, I don't know, but like, yeah, so they've made it less offensive or derogatory by just using it amongst themselves.
Well, it is a little, it's kind of... I don't know, it is kind of like a condescending term, I guess, but this story does kind of examine that.
True.
In a way that, I mean, you wouldn't know this because you haven't heard or seen a lot of stories involving Leela, but that's usually just kind of it's not examined to the extent that it is here. I mean, because this story, a lot of it is about like what it means to be a savage or a barbarian, mm-hmm. or a warrior, and like aspects of her identity that she's just like a savage. That's her, like, in big bold letters. Savage would be basically the thing that you would say about that character to explain it to someone.
Right.
And then it's reflected in the world that they go to. That it's sort of she gets Boudica is kind of a foil for her.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, I guess that didn't actually occur to me when I was watching watching this, but I mean, I get or
Listening to
listening to it. I was yeah, I was watching like a blank wall.
Were you?
No.
Watching paint dry.
Yeah.
So do you just sit and listen? Is that how you consume? Have consumed The Light at the End and this, because I don't think we talked about that.
I think
with The Light at the End.
Yeah. I mean, what I was doing when I was listening to, I mean, what I've done both times is I've had my notes out and I was sort of jotting down notes. So I mean, I guess what I was really doing was I was staring at my notes. I mean, at when I was listening to The Light at the End, I was also kind of browsing the internet. So I mean, it was kind of just idle browsing. So it wasn't really like anything distracting, but for this, I just kind of, I don't know, I was just kind of staring at my notes.
Yeah, for me, I usually do it while I'm like driving or on my lunch break or stuff like that. That's how I will usually consume these, which means that I will often not consume like an episode in one sitting. Like I will just stop listening as soon as I have arrived at my destination, and then just a couple hours later, I might pick up in mid-sentence, which is not something I usually do when I watch TV. I mean, I won't usually, say, well, I got time to watch another, third of an episode. I'll usually either watch an entire episode or be done with it.
Right.
I don't usually go by halves, but I do with audio dramas for some reason.
Yeah. That's I have listened to audio dramas in the car in the past, and it's usually, strangely, when I'm on a long drive and I intend to be able to listen to the thing in its entirety before I arrive at my destination. So I've never tried breaking it up like that. Maybe I should. When I was listening to it, I didn't really think about how perfect this was for Leela as a character. How much this was kind of exploring her and what she was about, which I imagine it would in any other, like, sort of medieval or before that kind of warrior story. I don't know. Actually, she'd probably identify with any kind of warrior, as long as they were brave and not cowardly.
That's generally how she is. That's how she kind of became buds with the Doctor.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So I mean, but I don't know, that is kind of cool. And I guess in a way, kind of a nice primer for Leela. Since I haven't really experienced any episodes with Leela in it, which I keep mentioning.
What do you think about the character based on what little you've heard from her?
I think she's interesting. I mean, it's I would say that she is different. I mean, I definitely like it when the Doctor has a non-contemporary Earth companion. I guess there's not like a whole lot going on with her. But I do think she's interesting, and I like her sort of take on things and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, she has very different reactions to things than any other companion would, really.
Right.
And sometimes there'll be stories where, the role of the companion is almost interchangeable, where, any companion could have done the things the companion does in this episode.
Right.
With Leela, that's not the case here, and it rarely is. The thing about her character that makes her different from, like, Rose or Barbara or various other companions is that with Leela there really is, like, in bold letters, savage. Like, there's just one thing that you need, that she's like, there's one idea that she's based around. She's like a high concept companion. As opposed to, like, even like if you take Jamie, he's another companion who's not of contemporary Earth.
Right.
He's a Scottish Highlander, but there's like he's more of just like a guy, just like some guy. But with Leela, like, everything about her revolves around savage, like, and that she doesn't understand the Doctor's idioms, and doesn't like, for instance, Noel Coward doesn't understand why someone's name would be Coward.
Right. And I like that, and I find that interesting. And I don't know. I do like it when there's a different kind of companion, because I feel like that's something that a show like Doctor Who could really afford to do, and they kind of don't, or at least I mean they did, but they don't really anymore, and I kind of wish they would, because Doctor Who is a show that can do that, where they can sort of take a companion that's got nothing to do with contemporary Earth and have them travel along with the Doctor, and I kind of wish they would do that again. I still wish that they would do that again, because I know I feel like I've expressed my desire for that in the past, but I still want it. I still want a non-contemporary Earth companion.
Yeah, that would be that would be nice.
Well, and I mean, like, it's kind of, I totally understand why like Series 1, why you'd want to have contemporary Earth companions so that you can sort of set up like who the Doctor is and what he's on about and stuff. But I mean, at this point in time, I think, obviously it continues to be nice for new fans to have a contemporary Earth companion, so that new fans jumping on can have like a point of reference or whatever. But I mean, I think it's less of a need now, maybe because we have Netflix and things where if someone wants to start watching a TV show, they're probably going to start from the first season anyway.
And plus, I mean, we already have like, for instance, River, who is a companion who isn't the main companion on the show, but is an important figure in the show who takes the companion role when she appears and isn't a contemporary character.
Yeah.
Or she is a contemporary character sometimes. I mean, she had a childhood contemporaneous with Amy and Rory.
Right.
But that's not her whole thing.
Right. But yeah. I just really like the idea of having a companion like Leela where, and I guess it does help that she is kind of just that one thing, that she's just a savage and that's her deal. Because it does sort of allow it to be accessible in spite of how different it is. But I mean, like, I don't even think they necessarily need to have it be that simple. I think they could have, I feel like they could do, I don't know, there's just so many things you could do. There's so many different companions you could have, and yet somehow it's always contemporary Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an odd coincidence.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think of having a pure historical story that, unlike, say, the Mythmakers, which is a comedic pure historical, this is not a comedic story. It's just a straight up historical drama plus time travel.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I found it really interesting. The funny thing is, it doesn't seem like there's a lot that, I mean, from a historical perspective, there's a lot that happens, but I mean, plot wise, it doesn't seem like there's terribly a lot going on. I mean, the events kind of play out as history says they should, and the Doctor and Leela are there, but they don't really do a whole lot.
Well, they don't have an effect on history. Is that what you mean? Or they don't have much of? Or are you saying that the story is not much of a story?
I guess I'm saying both, but yeah, what I meant was that they don't really have that much of that. There's not that much of a story. I mean, it's kind of odd, I guess. Just that the Doctor and Leela show up, they get into a situation where they're sort of captured, and then they're really captured, and then the Doctor tells a lie, and then things happen.
There's getting caught, there's escaping, staple of Doctor Who.
Right.
I think the main story in this is not so much the Doctor's story as Leela's. She decides to ally herself with Boudica, and then that comes to a point where it pushes her to a place where she has to essentially set herself against the Doctor,
right?
And then she sort of comes around. So the story it's kind of a thin story, really, actually. But it does work for what it is, and to the extent that there is a story, it's her sort of flip flopping, basically.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, thinking about it, I do like that, because it definitely did explore Leela as a person and a character, and I did find that interesting. Like, I mean, when I say there's not a lot going on, I don't want to give the impression that I was bored, because I actually did really like it. I thought it was interesting. It's just like, I guess like, if I were to try and summarize this story to another person, I wouldn't really know how to do it, because it's pretty much just the Doctor and a companion visiting a time where stuff is happening. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting. Although, and I guess this doesn't really even matter, but If I'm remembering correctly, the Doctor lied to Leela in addition to Boudica. Like, because when the Doctor was first telling Leela why they were there, or rather why they had to leave, he says that they all get slaughtered or whatever, and that's not actually what happens.
I think that kind of puzzled me a little bit too. I think it may be that he was originally telling her about the eventual defeat of Boudica.
Oh.
And then he realized they were being overheard, and so he had to spin it off into so that he was talking about something else.
Oh.
So that he wouldn't let true facts slip. I don't know. Yeah, that was a little confusing to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's a reasonable explanation, because I mean, it did seem like, that they were kind of aware that they were being listened to, or towards the end. I guess that does make sense. I was gonna say, because it just seemed odd to me that Leela wasn't really angry that the Doctor had lied to her when it was revealed at the end. That was kind of a funny thing, is that it was just sort of the way the Doctor fixes the problem is that he just kind of lied, and that was his way of avoiding conflict or solving the conflict.
Just lie.
Yeah,
The Doctor lies.
Right. Should have known all along.
I found this story quite educational.
Well, yeah, because I didn't really know much about this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know very much about the history of the British Isles, especially not during classical antiquity, like 60 AD. That's not something I know very much about.
Right.
And I have a vague sense of, prior to listening to this, I had heard the name Boudica, and I knew it was this warrior queen, but I knew nothing about that.
Oh.
And given the education that I had growing up, I mean, it would have been entirely conceivable that I wouldn't have heard of Boudica, because I don't even know where I heard of her. It's just something I picked up somewhere. But yeah, so this was like, originally Doctor Who was supposed to be educational, and I found this pretty educational.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's funny. It's funny how educational Doctor Who can be when it's just pure historical.
Yeah,
which is another thing I wish that the actual TV show would do. It seems like whenever we listen to something that's not the TV show, I always comment on how I wish the TV show were more like it. Like you, I didn't really know anything about Boudica. I actually had never heard of Boudica, so yes, I can say with certainty that it is possible to make it through an American education without having heard of Boudica at all. But yeah, and that's actually something I did do while I was listening, is I actually looked up the Wikipedia page on Boudica to see how much of this was, to just see what was going on, and it was and it actually confused me, because I was sort of skimming the part about the part that was covered in this drama, and it didn't mention anything about an ambush, and I was like, well, that's weird. I wonder why that's not I wonder why that's not on Wikipedia. And so I was really confused, and then once I found out that he was lying, I was like, okay, well, that makes much more sense now. So it was almost like I had known. It was almost like I had learned about Boudica in history, because I was using the brain extension known as Wikipedia instead of my own personal memory. But yeah, so that was unusual, because this is definitely something that I would not have known about at all if I had not listened to it. So yeah, I would say it is educational.
Yeah, and I think that's fun.
I mean, would it be so terrible for Doctor Who to just do that once or twice? I mean, I love a good monster story as much as the next television watcher, but I would be completely fine with the Doctor and his companions just once in the TV show going to some place, there is no alien, and it's just a historical. Like, what would be so bad about that?
Yeah, where the main conflict is really just comes down to nothing more than what would it be like if this historical figure met our characters? What would this historical figure have to say to our characters? What would our characters have to say to this historical figure? And it's just like the main conflict of this entire story is just a conflict of their personal ideas from their cultural context. It's just like, it's super educational. It's just like, it's all about like critically engaging with one another in this weird way. It's just, yeah, there's never a monster. The actiony stuff that happens in it is sort of incidental.
Right.
It's just there. It's like, it's just part of the world rather than part of the plot.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because there have been plenty of times where in the TV show where the Doctor and his companion, they've met a historical figure, and I don't know, it's kind of funny how it's almost like they're afraid, like the production team is like afraid that if they don't include a monster somewhere, the characters are just gonna have nothing to do and just have nothing to say to each other.
Yeah.
The like oh yeah, we're gonna have the Doctor and Martha meet Shakespeare, but let's have witches too, because there needs to be something weird that Shakespeare can freak out about, and it's just, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, what if the entire idea of that story had been like, how would Shakespeare feel if he knew that his plays were going to be lost?
Right.
Like, yeah, you could do a story that's about that, and like, actually, it's a little bit less possible, I think, because at least in this story there is the threat of violence and carnage,
true,
sort of hanging in the balance.
True.
So it feels like it adds this whole ethical dimension to it that really drives things. Right. I don't know if it would necessarily be as interesting just to have, the Doctor shows up and meets Shakespeare and they have a chat.
Right, that's true. That's true.
There has to be some kind of action element, I feel.
That's true. What would be a better example is if it would be difficult because they're in the title, but if Victory of the Daleks didn't have the Daleks, like if it was just Winston Churchill asking the Doctor to help with World War II. Because
to lend alien assistance, yeah.
Right, and that's a legitimate thing. The Doctor could possibly end a lot of suffering and prevent a lot of unneeded deaths if he would just help out with World War II. And surely Winston Churchill would be able to make a convincing argument to the Doctor about why he should help, and that would be a fun, interesting, not fun, but it would be interesting to see play out.
Uh-huh.
But instead they have the Daleks be a weapon, and then it goes sour as you'd expect.
Mm-hmm. It sure does.
There's got to be a way to do it. Obviously, because it's been shown here that you can have a perfectly good story with no monster. Perfectly interesting story. Yeah, I desperately want the TV show to do this.
Just one.
Exactly. Just one. Just put it in the middle of the season, assuming that the season's not going to be split in two, which is dumb. Put it in the middle, in between like two-parters or whatever. I'm imagining going back to the golden era of series 1 through 5. Put it somewhere in the middle where it's of little consequence to the overall story arc. Heck, okay, you can even throw in a little hint that there's this big villain that the Doctor's going to have to confront at the end of the season. Fine. Just throw in just a tiny little thing, that's fine. But then the rest of the other 41 minutes of the episode, just have it be a pure historical, and just have the Doctor and the companion just go and do something in the past or future, whatever. And just no monster, just pure historical. I guess it would have to be the past, but just give it to me.
Well, you could do a future story that didn't involve a monster, that involved some kind of future war of some kind,
right?
And even for instance, you could do something similar to the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People, except just don't have it turn into monsters. Just deal with some issues involving the duplicates coming to life and whatnot, without having it be like they turn into monsters. Same thing with the Lazarus Experiment. You could do a story like that set in the vague future, where someone makes a Lazarus experiment and doesn't turn into a monster.
Right. Yeah, instead explore the issues of immortality and, how bad that could be in terms of other things.
Instead of having him turn into a monster, have him like go crazy and have a bunch of guns or something.
There you go. Exactly.
Like, that's the worst monster of all.
Yes.
Anyhow.
Yeah, there's just so many. And the thing is, there's so much history. There's just a ton of it. And a lot of it's interesting. We just take you take an interesting bit of history that you like, take the Doctor, take the companion, plop them down in it, and actually wait, I feel like I've already talked about how the fires of Pompeii would have worked without.
Yeah, I think that's something we've discussed.
Yeah,
I think we've discussed the whole try not using monsters quite a few times before, but it still stands.
Yeah, it does, and I think we should continue talking about it until they give us an episode.
Listen.
Yes, until.
Yeah. I think I'm glad Big Finish at least did one. I don't think they do all that many. I couldn't name them all off the top of my head, the ones that they've done. I don't think this is the only one they've done, but they don't do very many.
Well, they still have a better track record than the New Who production team, so...
This is true.
So my hat's off to Big Finish for that.
So another fun thing about the stories that Big Finish do with Tom Baker is that they're short. It's kind of interesting because they're much more fast-paced than classic Who serials are because they have to fit everything into 2 half-hour-long episodes.
Right. Well, and that was a thing that I was interested in the format because I know that when we've listened to like the Eighth Doctor adventures, those have been 45-minute episodes, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of curious as to why. I was just kind of assuming that this was also going to be 45 minutes, but it was an hour. It was an hour total.
Well, a lot of Big Finish's main releases that they usually do are 2 hours long.
Oh, okay.
They're 4-parters with half-hour episodes, but they have the Eighth Doctor and the Fourth Doctor are consigned to their own like spin-off ranges where they have a different format, which I think, and even with the Eighth Doctor, they switched over to doing half-hour and a half-hour rather than just one 45-minute episode. Just because I think they like putting cliffhangers in. I think that's it.
Well, who doesn't love a good cliffhanger? But yeah. That's interesting. I haven't really like looked up to see what kind of a format they usually do. So that is news to me. If nothing else.
The typical format is 2 CDs. The first one has 2 episodes, and the second one has 2 episodes. And I think most of the other ones that we put into our random selection pool have that format. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But yeah. So how come the Fourth and Eighth Doctors are different?
That's a decent question. I don't really know. They I guess they just decided that instead of giving them slots in the monthly, they have what they refer to as the quote unquote main range, which is every month. Actually, it's 13 a year. They release one of those 2-hour audio dramas, and that's the series that they've been carrying on since 1998. They've just been doing them on a monthly basis or a 13 a yearly basis. And then they've gradually like added extra things on top of that. So the Eighth Doctor range and the Fourth Doctor range are additions on top of that.
Oh, I see.
And so they have a slightly different format. I think it might just be to differentiate them from the main range, to have them just be something different.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So the main range is at the moment the main range is just Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy, rotating in and out.
I guess I never really thought about how they released these things.
Yeah, they have a lot of different series. The main range being their flagship, and they have all the series they have. They have the Lost Stories. They had the Fourth Doctor Adventures, the Eighth Doctor Adventures, the Eighth Doctor box sets, the Companion Chronicles, the Early Adventures, the stage plays, the Unbound, the Short Trips audiobooks, the Destiny of the Doctor. I already said the Companion Chronicles, didn't I? But yeah, exactly. And they've got a whole bunch of things that don't involve the Doctor, but are set in the Doctor Who universe.
Really? Huh.
Oh yeah.
They are quite busy.
They're very busy. And they also do stuff that has just nothing to do with Doctor Who at all. They have other products that they make.
Right. Yeah, I've kind of like seen them on the Big Finish website when I, log in or whatever. I see that there are other things that are not Doctor Who related, and I kind of just glaze over them. But I know they're there.
They are there. They have Sherlock Holmes plays they do.
Right.
They have Dark Shadows. They have other stuff. Blake 7.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know what Blake 7 is. I've heard of it, but...
Blake 7 is a series created by Terry Nation, who, as you presumably know, created the Daleks.
Right. I do know that. It's good of you to presume
Did Terry Nation create Blake 7? I feel like he did. Am I giving him credit unduly? Because I've never actually seen Blake 7.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not legally available in any format in the U.S. It's not on DVD. It's not streaming anywhere. It was created by Terry Nation. And it's some people have compared it to Firefly.
Really?
In that it's about a group of like renegades on the run from the Federation who are like rebelling against a corrupt government. And it's very character driven and stuff. I don't know if it was a direct inspiration for Firefly. I have no idea, but it has a somewhat similar concept.
That's interesting. So this was made after he tried and failed in America to make a Dalek TV show.
Yes, I believe this was quite a time after that. This was in the late 70s. So.
I see.
By that point, he realized that he had failed.
Yes. Well, it's good to have that realization because then you can kind of improve, and come back with something good.
Yeah, he actually did quite a few other things. He also was responsible for a show called Survivors.
Okay. Which
is a post-apocalyptic show after Doctor Who. Another thing I've not seen. Another thing that Big Finish is doing plays about.
Really?
Audio plays about. Yeah, from what I understand, Terry Nation's work outside of Doctor Who is actually better than his Doctor Who work.
Really?
Because I'm not a huge fan of scripts written by Terry Nation, to be perfectly honest, with the exception of Genesis of the Daleks.
Huh. Yeah, I'm actually not sure which ones he's done. I know he did the first Dalek story.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't list them off the top of my head, but he did most of the. I think he did all the Hartnell ones, and I think he did some of the. Yeah, and he did some of the Pertwee ones.
Well, there you go.
There indeed.
Yeah. I don't really remember them being all that significant. Like I can't seem to recall them being like, oh yeah, this was awesome.
Well, I don't know. All of his Dalek stories tend to be very similar, just like the same stuff rehashed over and over again. Yeah, he did the Daleks, the Keys of Marinus, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the Chase, Mission to the Unknown, Daleks Master Plan, Planet of the Daleks, Death to the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks, the Android Invasion, Destiny of the Daleks. Those are the ones he did.
So he was kind of a one-trick pony. He thought of the Daleks and he sort of stopped being...
Well, he did the Android Invasion. I mean...
Well, all right, I guess.
There's always that.
But anyway, so supposedly his non-Doctor Who stuff is better than that.
Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about Blake 7 and Survivors. And eventually, if I can find a way to watch them, I might do so. None of this has to do with...
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. It's funny because prior to this, I didn't actually know who or what the Iceni were.
I wouldn't have been able to tell you.
Like, I feel almost bad saying this, but I really thought, I thought this was going to be some kind of alien. Like,
oh, I thought I mentioned going in that it was a pure historical.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
It's entirely possible that you did and I just completely forgot. Because I do that.
Sure. Who doesn't?
Or I just ignore what you say. I don't know. But yeah, no. Well, aliens are history, right? I mean, they helped build the pyramids.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah. Well, okay. Well, it could be me just not remembering that, but I don't know. I didn't know what the Iceni were.
Well, neither did I, and I mean, prior to listening to this for the purpose of this discussion, I had heard it before. And prior to that my first listening, I don't think I knew what the Iceni were, and I didn't know it was a pure historical going in, so I probably assumed that it was some kind of, horrific alien who was causing mayhem and mischief in 60 AD.
Right. Like you do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So it was kind of funny finding out that was not at all the case.
Oh yeah, you find out pretty early in the story because she says, "Yeah, this is my Celtic tribe, the Iceni."
Right.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of not that it like deflates your expectations, but you know, I don't know. I found it really unexpected. I wonder if that was like their intention, like for people who don't know history, to be really confused when.
Well, see, I don't know because I don't know what's on the curriculum in the UK's education system. So it could be that for someone living in the UK, that would be that would just be obvious to them.
Right. Yeah, that's entirely possible. Might be like I don't know.
I can't think of an equivalent.
I don't know, like Wrath of the Quakers or something.
Wrath of the Quakers.
But yeah. So it could very well be that this is just a failure of the American education system, that we don't know what, or that we didn't know what the Iceni were and thought they were aliens.
Yeah, though, to be fair to the American educational system, I mean, I don't know how important it is that American high school students learn about Celtic tribes with that level of detail.
That's a good point.
I mean, you can't learn everything.
No, that's definitely true. Yeah, and I don't know. It seems like this may not be your experience, but my high school education was very World War II heavy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there was other European history that was happening. I mean, like I did get I think I got a year of like what was called world history, where it sort of covered everything else, and then I think there were 2 years of U.S. history. Don't know how that happened, but you know.
Well, that's what I had too. 2 years of U.S. history, 1 year of European history, not even world history. So like anything that isn't the United States or Europe, just I presume it not to have a history. There must not be history in like the largest portions of the world. Presumably nothing ever happened there.
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, I understand it. I understand like wanting to strip everything out, just and give you like a primer for whatever you're gonna need to know in your day-to-day life or whatever. Not that you really even need to know like whose assassination started World War One. Like that's not really a thing that I'm constantly calling up from my memory, and in my job as a software developer. But I don't know. I guess I just don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it is unfair to expect to have been taught, at least as an American, it's unfair to expect to have been taught about Boudica and her Iceni.
Yeah, I don't feel like the education system really let me down here. I just feel like maybe I should have like branched out a bit on my own. Maybe I should have read a book or
That's
something.
right. It's your fault.
It's probably my fault.
But yeah, no. Well, who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Boudica is like the UK's version of Sacagawea or something. I don't know.
Possibly.
But I have no idea.
Shall I now pick the next random story to be watched after we discuss Wrath of the Iceni?
I think you shall.
All right, I shall fire up the random selection matrix. Firing it up.
These things take time.
Okay, the story is The Mask of Mandragora. Yeah, The Mask of Mandragora.
Oh.
It's a Fourth Doctor story.
Well then.
And mask is spelled M-A-S-Q-U-E.
Oh.
Just so as you know. Just making sure you know that.
Well, I wouldn't have known that. It's a very...
And now you know.
Yeah. It's a very unusual way to spell mask.
But it's how it's spelled here.
I guess so. I was, I was initially confused because I was almost sure you were going to spell what came after the mask of, but then you spell. We
Oh,
went
do you
and spelled,
need that
out.
spelled as well?
No, I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
How many masks spelled with a QUE are there?
Yeah, it's from season 14.
Oh.
And it features the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane.
That's interesting because I don't think we've. I mean, there's a lot of Doctor companion combinations we haven't talked about yet. But I don't think we've actually talked about the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane
Since Genesis of the Daleks.
Right.
Yeah, this is the first Philip Hinchcliffe era story we're talking about since Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
And Philip Hinchcliffe is the Hinchcliffe era is considered by many fans to be like the be all and end all. I mean, that is Doctor Who.
Ah, well, then we should be so very lucky to be able to discuss it.
Yeah, and the Mask of Mandragora is a part of that era. It's in that time frame. I'm just saying the same thing over and over again at this point in a very unhelpful kind of way.
Right.